Hello and welcome to the Church Office Podcast. My name is Gavin Smith, and it's a joy to welcome you today to this administration, admin and ops podcast. We love talking about the work of ministry behind the scenes, and I love getting guests on. And my newest friend, and looking forward to hearing, is Anna Hodgson. Welcome to the podcast. Thanks for coming.
Hi, thanks for having me.
It's great. So you've been in admin ops for 5 or 6 years. You're at Basingstoke, Mosaic Church. Tell us a little bit about your role and how you got into it and how long you've been serving.
So I have been going to Mosaic Basingstoke for about 8 years and had got to know the lead elder quite well there. At the time, I wasn't working at all. I had young kids, and so I wasn't working. And we got to know each other, and I think he probably spotted something in me that was kind of strategic and operational. And so we had a few conversations, and I was sort of, it's not really a role for me.
Not sure.
I don't know if it was imposter syndrome or can't be bothered syndrome. But it felt like a big role, and I didn't think I could do it. And then as time sort of went on and we talked a bit more, I thought, actually, this is where I can really serve. I think one of the things about an operational or strategic gift is that you don't probably recognize how big your gift is, because you tend to assume that everybody sees what you see and it's obvious. So I think it took me a while to come around to understand actually some of the stuff I was seeing and spotting wasn't that obvious. So I think I probably got beaten down and graciously and thankfully took on the role. And I've been doing that now for 5 or 6 years and really love it. Really love it.
Yeah, it's great. So you came from an art background, and we were saying about your pictures and stuff at the back behind you in your home office. It's funny, isn't it? We were chatting before the podcast, saying how different people come into church administration in so many different ways and roles and history. And it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, we often say when we have the forums that we're going to talk about a bit later, we often say that, there are not many people that have done a degree in church administration. People tend to just roll into this. And I think a huge part of that is the gifting that people spot and recognise. But also as well, what I love is finding out where people's sort of historical skill sets lay. And so that's really wonderful, because you've got people that sort of ex-lawyers or ex-HR or just a whole massive sort of variety of stuff. And I mean, for me, I was going to say, I'm not sure that the art really plays into it, but it does, because I end up doing all the artwork. So, that's a fun part of the job for me. But I ran my own business as well. So probably some of the skills that I acquired there have been really helpful coming into this role.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. If you run your own business, then it's so much of that, isn't it? And I find that there's actually quite a lot of creativity, isn't there, in the role as in the church operations. You have to be creative with the resources you've got, with the people you've got, the gifting you've got. Coming up with new ideas sometimes. No one else is doing that on our team. So it's, that's something that does land with me. And and that's the part I really quite enjoy. I say about being creative with our finances and stuff, and some trustees go, well, that sounds a bit dodgy, but actually, no, being strategic and thinking about what are our priorities and do they match, and how could we invest, or how could we bless people? Like, it just takes a bit of creative thought, and I love all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, I find real life in that. Definitely.
Yeah. I love the finances. I don't find it a boring part of the job. I do. I really enjoy it. Not necessarily the spreadsheet, drive, but just how can we use these? How can we steward this that's going to really serve our church in a way? And I love to do that. And it's a great part. Any standout parts of the job that you love? What are your kind of like, you see the list and I'm going to drawn to that particular task straight away?
So I'm not big on the sort of detailed, granular minutiae. That stuff for me is it's got to be done. I don't particularly find life in it. I love the bigger sort of picture oversight. So sort of looking at an entire year. What I love to do is gather from different ministries and areas in the church what they'd love, what their vision is really. That's where I love to come from. So how do they want to see God work this year? What do they think he's saying to them? Are there any changes? Are there any resource gaps? So I love that kind of big picture moment where you see their pain points and you see their successes, and then it's about celebrating those successes, pushing them on, and helping equip. So that for me is something I really love to do, that kind of oversight thing. And then I also just really have a heart for taking care of people in it all. I think historically, church administrators, possibly rightly so, have got a bit of a rap for being officious, and that it's all about getting the job done, and it doesn't matter who you leave behind. But I just really love to see people thrive and the most come out of them, and see their gifting grow by somehow being able to enable that and see a way forward.
Yeah, the people part of it is so important, isn't it? Because it isn't an administrator or ops person sat behind a desk, pumping out paperwork, making sure that everything's done, being the handbrake sometimes. But this is about enabling ministry, isn't it, to happen? This is about caring for people, releasing gifting, and you have to get to know people to be able to do that, don't you? And I think that's, if you're not a people person as an admin and ops person, then you might not be in the right place. And I found that.
Yeah, I agree. I've met a few who are phenomenally talented and really get the job done, and probably get the job done better and more efficiently than I could. But I sometimes think it's a little bit like parenting. It's like trying to just let people fly a bit and sounding ideas off. But invariably what you find is other people have better ideas, and so then it's like great, so now I can make that a reality. I know how to do that. But it's great to hear where you're coming from and how you think it's going to work best. So
that's true. And let's fill the listeners in a bit how we met. So I was traveling with Nigel. Nigel was speaking at something that you're involved in. Tell us a little bit about you call it the ETA forum, don't you? What does that stand for?
Yeah, so it's called Equipping the Administrators.
Yeah.
So over the last probably 4, 5, 6 years within Commission, which is a sphere within New Frontiers, there have been several equipping forums or groups set up. So equipping the evangelists, and then the one that I'm involved in is equipping the administrators. So I think this grew. I was working with a guy called Miles Jarvis, and it was evident that there was a need around church administrators and sort of ops and strategists that it's quite a siloed workplace sometimes, I think. And also it was acknowledging the fact that when you come into that role, you have to be an expert in everything, really. So no one person has those skill sets really fully developed. So the sort of seed idea, I think, behind it was how can we work together and create a sort of a learning forum or a hub together where we can share ideas and resources, and also as well struggles, I guess, really, where people can come and say, I'm not sure what to do about this. Anybody got any ideas? How has this worked out for you? And so that was the sort of start point. And then COVID hit. So that was quite helpful for us because it forced us to do a Zoom sort of forum, which I think we possibly may have thought about anyway. But I think people's mindsets, I know certainly for me, it was all about in-person meeting prior to that, which is great, but we're drawing on people from all over the country. And you're talking about busy people. I mean, if you're an administrator, you're always busy. So we started sort of once a term or maybe once every quarter doing kind of a Zoom meeting where we got together and we had a topic. We'd quite often have a speaker and then we'd have questions. And that was kind of how we started, really.
Yeah. I think these things are great, and they serve people, isn't it? Because there's often conferences and training for leaders, elders have forums where they can get together, but the behind the scenes staff
Yeah.
don't always get that opportunity. And I think you're right. You can feel quite alone sometimes, but different people have lots of different experience across that kind of spectrum. But you're right. You do feel sometimes like you're working on this yourself, and you've got to know all the answers. And yeah, to have a place where you can go, help me. I've got a building project to do, or I've got to do this. What did you guys do? It's lovely in it to see that interaction and see those relationships build. So
Yeah, it's been so helpful. Like, I mean, I think for me now there are two parts. So the meeting together part, and then we also have like an online forum, and both are equally helpful.
yeah,
You know, I've got a safeguarding issue, or
yeah,
has anybody done this for the youth, or how do you manage this with your CAP clients? And you find that people are really happily ping over a document or a policy, and it's like, oh, great, that's
yeah,
a day of work there for me has been saved, and I think as well, just finding out that everyone faces the same difficulties.
hmm
So I know, particularly coming out of the pandemic, I think it was probably global actually. You know, people like, oh, I can't get volunteers, we can't get
yeah,
people on our
yeah,
rotas, and
yeah,
whilst it
yeah,
didn't solve anything, knowing that everyone else was having the same sort of battle, it was so helpful to know, okay, this is a thing. So
yeah,
now we work together to find a way through. It's not
yeah,
just a my church or my church family thing. This is a change in how people's lives are. So
yeah, yeah. So true. Yeah, it's great. And so, how often do you guys get together? Is that a kind of quarterly or in-person thing once a year or something? What do you guys do?
so we have two sort of Zoom meetings throughout the year. So that's usually sort of February, March time, and then again June, July. And those tend to be just a couple of hours. So we'll have a guest speaker, and then we'll go into breakout rooms and
Yeah,
sort of drill down a bit, and then quite often come back and share information. And then once a year in October, we have an in-person meeting,
yeah,
which is great. And so that's held at different venues around the country. And we have had some phenomenal speakers. We've had Sharon Clark has spoken
yeah,
there.
yeah,
She was exceptional.
yeah,
Becky Flood, again,
yeah,
just the thing that I've really loved is it's not an administrator's day particularly. So Sharon was really about just calling people up in their gifting and saying, okay, it's great, you are an administrator, but actually this is God given, and let's look in the scripture about where this has come from, and it's
yeah,
a really precious gift. And let's encourage each other. And again, obviously with her, she's very prophetic, and that was just such a great day. And we've had the same again when Nigel came recently,
yeah,
and Becky, just been brilliant. People have just kind of bought whatever's been on their heart, and it's served us so well.
yeah, good.
Nothing but sort of excellent feedback from those days. People have been so encouraged, and I think as well, just gathering together in that room, as you say, if you're a lead elder, invariably there are conferences and meetings where you're together and you get to catch
Yeah,
up. But just gathering these like-minded people who invariably are serving, so it's lovely for them to come to something where they can just sit and receive as well. So yeah, that's
yeah.
how we, yeah.
Fab. No, I love that. It sounds great. And as we were chatting earlier, wasn't it? And we've had Nigel on the podcast and we've had Terry on the podcast. New Frontiers have benefited hugely, haven't they, from this model of two leaders who have got totally different gifting, but have worked brilliantly together for 40 odd years. That kind of visionary leader of Terry, and then the making it happen, administration, admin, ops that Nigel's brought. There aren't many movements that have had leaders that long with that kind of gifting that I can think of, and that must be a blessing for New Frontiers, for you guys as leaders talk about the two roles working together in churches.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I can only sort of speak personally to that, and I know. I mean, I work very closely with our lead elder and with our staff team, and to an extent, our trustees and our elders as well. And it's such an interesting but sort of special dynamic, really. Um,
Yeah.
uh, and you feel heard and you feel seen, but there's opportunity for sort of robust discussion. And I love that, because
Yeah.
I certainly don't ever imagine that just because that's my role, I know what the
Yeah.
answer is.
Yeah.
It's never the case, but I just love that kind of open forum to share ideas, and everybody is working towards the same
Yeah.
mission, vision, and goal. And it's a really strong base, actually,
Yeah.
because everything that we do as a church family is filtered through that sort of relationship and that team.
Yeah.
Uh, and I think it makes it quite well rounded when it comes to decision making. And but I agree with you. I've not really seen it modelled,
Yeah.
particularly elsewhere. So it's something really special.
Yeah, it really is. And I could just talk about my experience. Our elders here have been fantastic. You know, they see the gifting in me, they give room for it, they respect it. And in the same way, I'm respecting their gifting and their thoughts and their vision and what they're trying to build and do. And you know, it's a joy to work here, and it's a joy to work in that environment. And I know for some people listening to the podcast, that might not be their experience. And do you know what? It is tough when you're undervalued, you're not given the room, that you feel like you're the handbrake all the time. That's bringing the what about this? What about that? Don't like that. That's not going to work. That's a hard place to be in, isn't it? But I think I've been doing the role for 20 years. So I've had to just learn to be patient with it. And I think there's the last 10 years have been brilliant, you know. But it
Yeah.
does take a bit of time, doesn't it, to set that and to get that going, and for that respect to be there, that different gifting to be shown.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think as well, I know for me, I've had to sort of change my expectations around timing, because I think
Mhm.
part of my gift is let's get it done, let's get it done.
Yeah,
I've had to learn, yeah, let's get it done, but not at any cost. Let's
yeah,
get it done. And one of the things that our elders are really big on is we go together or we don't go at all. And
yeah, yeah,
that's such a blessing. It was
yeah.
a
It is.
frustration at times, because I'm like, oh, come on, it's
Mm,
obvious, but actually, just the strength of people with the different ways they process,
yeah,
and then we eventually arrive at a decision, and then
yeah,
yes, we go together.
yeah, yeah. So true. If we can get those things aligned, isn't it? You know, our elders, our operations staff, our budget, our strategic plan, where we're going, what we want to do. When we get all that in line, it is a very powerful thing, isn't it? It's a very, you know, strong thing to be moving forward together in that way. And yeah, I've certainly appreciated that. And when you do stand back and watch, you go, yeah, God's been good to us in this, and there's grace at work, and we can recognize it and enjoy it. Um, yeah, I love that. Well, I know you've got a big heart for people and for staff, and you know, people that are listening to this are in the middle of sorting out Christmas, and for us, it's like end of year financial accounts because we do year end is December. January, I know we're doing a retreat, and lots of churches are away, and there's so much prep to do to be ready to go and say, right, how did we do last year on the finances? What are we doing this year? Speak into this a little bit. How are you caring for people and working that stuff through yourself?
Um, with varying degrees of success, probably.
Yeah, yeah,
It doesn't matter how kind of well I think we've covered caring for people. I've always missed something, and that's always a source of pain to me. But then it's just about going and saying, "I'm really sorry, I didn't communicate," or because, as you say, there's so many different things
mm.
going on, and one of the things I find is I'm really trying to work on streamlining our comms. So it's very easy to have offline conversations or
Mhm.
sort of emails involving a couple of people, which is absolutely fine. It's pretty critical for getting things done. But then I find it very easy then to forget to bring everybody else along.
Yeah,
So that is something I'm really trying to work on, is making sure that almost being really pedantic with it, that we are communicating at the right time, in the right process with the right people, and making sure that everybody is listened to and that everybody hears the information they need.
Yeah.
So that for me is a big way of caring for people. It is, I feel like there's value if you say to people, it matters that you know
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
or we hear how you feel about this. We went out yesterday for a staff Christmas lunch, so that was great.
Nice. Love
That's
that.
a really nice thing to do, just to take people out and just to have fun together. We went for a lovely long walk first, so everybody gets time just to chat and to chill out and just to say we really appreciate what you do. Thank you. That is something that we endeavour to do throughout the year.
Yeah.
Sort of celebrating people's successes. Again, I think we can do that better, but just thanking people publicly, and encouraging people, trying to spot the things that they've done and speak into that and say it was really. I mean, our elder Martin is really, really good at remembering to say to people, it was great how you did. I heard him doing it yesterday at the meal. Just heard him chatting to someone, and I was like, yeah, it means so much that somebody's recognized something that you've done. I mean, the other thing that again, varying degrees of success here, but just trying to put boundaries in for people. And so making sure if you are working all day Saturday and all day Sunday on the carol service, please take some time back. It's just such a busy season. Please make sure over Christmas really turn off your emails. Quite often we'll try and do a sort of system where an elder may be on call each day. So people actually have that proper break, and putting that in place. We shut the office. This year it's for a good week, and so that's quite good. In fact, this year's fallen really well date-wise, because we've got a Christmas Eve service, we've got a New Year's Eve service, and then very little really in between. So hopefully that'll give people a week off. We're trying to give the kids teams a couple of weeks off, so having sort of family service around the carols, and then endeavouring, if we can, on New Year's Eve to we'll need some of the core kids team, but to just have other volunteers be able to come in and just give them a rest. So I think it's sort of marginal gains for me, just trying to spot. If we did that, that would make that a little bit easier for that person or for that team. And also trying to scale back what we do as well. I think sometimes we can go really huge around Christmas. And then, what's the fruit of that? People are sort of run ragged making pallet Christmas trees and thinking that through. I don't know. There's lots of different voices that speak into that, because everyone's got their kind of own drive, which is really right. But sometimes just stepping back and saying, okay, we don't have to do this that way. We just need to be who we are as family. Make sure that everyone is cared for in the busyness of it.
It is so true. Yeah, we've got the same things, because we tend to miss a service in between Christmas and New Year. And this year, because it falls on the 31st, we're gonna do something, and it is a family service. But all of that prep has to be done prior to Christmas, doesn't it? Someone has to arrange the sermon for that week, the music for that week, the kids for that week. And so we are bringing everything forward, and it's just being realistic. Say, oh, we'd love to have a Thanksgiving service with 20 testimonies and a baptism, and you're like, how are we going to actually do that? Who's going to come in and set the pool up, and who's going to coordinate all these, all the folk in our church to do a Thanksgiving, because you can't have 20. And so it does put pressure, and we've got a tendency to go bigger each year. So you do something, carol service really well, and you go, right, what can we do next year to make it better? And we put pressure on ourselves. No one else is going, oh, right, what do we need to do? And I think it needs a voice in there. And I think that's probably what my job has been this thing to help staff is, do we really need to do this? Are we putting pressure on ourselves? Have we actually got the time? The other practical thing I've been doing is checking in on staff holidays. I don't know if you're like me. I've still got 5 days holiday left to go, and I'm thinking, how am I going to fit this in? And I look at myself and go, right, I wonder who else is. So I check the holiday calendar, and I'm like, right, I need to have a conversation with 2 or 3 people. Say, how are you actually going to do this? You need to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you have that same issues going on.
Yeah, there's a constant sort of my constant mantra, which I know everyone's so bored of, is just kind of checking in and keeping accountable. And
Yeah,
in a lot of other industries, when you say keeping accountable, probably the underlying of that is making sure you've done what you should have done.
yeah,
Whereas in church work, it's more like making sure you haven't done
yeah,
everything. And, that why is there a week and
yeah,
a half of holiday left? When was the last time you had a day off? And
yeah,
it's a constant battle. I think it's really hard as well. It's this whole boundary thing, because the lines between church work and being part of the church family are quite often blurred. And
yeah,
so it's really hard to know, well, did I do that because I'm serving my church family, or did I do that because it's part of my role? And
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
think it's a good tension. It's a good tension to constantly look at and address, to make sure that you're getting the rest and the break that you need. But
yeah,
I don't know what the answer is yet. I'll let
yeah,
you know. It's a whole
yeah.
podcast on its own, isn't
I
it?
know. Well, if you're listening and you've got any ideas, please share and please get in contact. We'd love to hear from you. And yeah, it is the staffing part is the hardest part, I think, isn't it? Is caring for people, making sure we get what we want to get done, but also just go. There are so many staff workers that I see that contact me that have been in the point of burnout, been just not cared for. And yeah, the reality is I have to make sure that, even our staff, that I'm doing that and caring for folks. So yeah, a message there out. So Anna, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Thanks for sharing all this great wisdom and knowledge and, stuff that you've got going on. Thanks for serving the administrators that are working in New Frontiers. I'm thrilled that there's support and I love that. And that's my heart for the church office. What can we do to encourage the behind the scenes ministry? How can we equip them and serve them? And if there's anything that the church office can do to support you guys in New Frontiers, please get in contact. And yeah, we'd love that. If you've got any questions from today, or you'd like to connect in any way, please contact us at questions@thechurchoffice.co.uk. Please jump onto the website and check out our videos, podcasts. If there's any policy documents, anything that we can do to serve you, we might have something on the site that might be useful for you. Please check it out and use it. But from us, have a lovely Christmas. Anna, thank you so much. And we'll see you next time on the podcast.
Thanks, Gavin.
Bye for now.